On Fridays, we've been looking in the book of Hebrews as we've been focused on Jesus, as the book of Hebrews focuses a lot on Jesus and what his sacrifice and his priesthood means for us. And we see in Hebrews chapter 2, where the Hebrew writer began to talk about how Jesus took on flesh and became like us, became a human being, and he suffered and he came to defeat death. And at the end of chapter 2 in Hebrews, in verse 17, it says, "Therefore in all things Jesus had to be made like his brethren, that he might be a merciful and faithful high priest in things pertaining to God, to make propitiation for the sins of the people. For in that he himself has suffered being tempted, he is able to aid or help those who are being tempted." And so the Hebrew writer reminds us of what the suffering of Jesus means for us, that he is able to help us, that Jesus came and suffered. He knows what it's like, and so he can help us, which is the point the Hebrew writer now makes again in chapter 4 today. In Hebrews chapter 4, beginning in verse 14, after he was talking about entering the rest, how the promise of God's rest is still open and available to all who will have faith and obey him, he then reminds us of something very important. In Hebrews 4, verse 14, "Seeing then that we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, then let us hold fast our confession," that confession of faith in him. "For we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but was in all points tempted as we are, yet without sin. Let us therefore come boldly to the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in time of need." This is the Hebrew writer's way of telling us that Jesus knows what it is we struggle with, what it is we're going through. We have weaknesses, we have challenges. We're tempted when it comes to sin. We are challenged by the trials and sufferings of life. And Jesus knows every bit of it. In all points, he says, in all points, in all things of life, Jesus was tested and tempted. Jesus knows what it's like. He's been there. He's been through it. He suffered and died, but he was raised. He's now gone through the heavens to heaven to be with God, reigning on high. But Jesus came to this earth. Jesus came so that he could be our faithful and merciful high priest, to know what it is we go through. And we're going to talk about this again in chapter 5. Jesus is merciful, and Jesus can help us. He says, "Come to the throne of grace in time of need, to find mercy and grace," because he is full of compassion and love. And Jesus, he's been one of us. Yet he didn't sin. Jesus overcame it all. And who better to go to than somebody who's been through it all, overcame it all, knows what it's like, and God will help us. Jesus will help us, and we will receive mercy and grace in our times of challenge and suffering. Jesus can sympathize with us, and he does sympathize with us. Jesus is not a Lord and Savior who doesn't care, who doesn't know what we're really going through. He knows. God knows more than anybody. And then added that Jesus came to this earth, felt what it's like to live this human life, faced trials, faced temptations, suffering, pain, sorrow, anger. Jesus dealt with it all, and he beat it all. And now Jesus is reaching down from heaven, calling down from us, saying, "I'm here to help. Jesus, our Savior, knows. Jesus cares. And Jesus will help. Let him help you. I need to let him help me. And we need to feel that comforting knowledge of knowing that he can sympathize. You know, in our nature, we tend to feel more from those who can sympathize with what we're going through, those who have been through it themselves. There's a special connection there, if you will. And there should be that special connection with us in Jesus, because Jesus has been there, done that. Jesus knows what we're going through. So let's go to the throne of grace to find mercy and grace and help in our time of challenge and weakness, trial and temptation. He will help. Jesus knows. Jesus cares. God bless.